While multicolor 3D printing seems to be all the rage right now, there are many people who are just looking for a reliable machine to help them produce their projects without breaking the bank. I've already managed to put a couple hundred hours of print time on my QIDI Plus 5, and today we'll be talking about the good, the bad, and if this is a 3D printer worth adding to your workshop. As the name would suggest, this is the 5th generation of the QIDI Plus printers. The Plus 5 has the largest build volume that this particular line of printers has seen yet, with a print area of 320 by 320 by 300 millimeters. That means you'll be able to print things like helmets in a single piece. The nozzle can reach temperatures of 370 degrees Celsius, while the bed can reach 120 degrees. It also has up to 65 degrees Celsius active chamber heating, so you've got a great spec setup for using harder to print engineering filaments, or in my case, a lot of ABS. It doesn't seem like all that long ago that the Plus 4 came out, and while I'm still not a fan of machines being so quickly replaced by newer versions, the Plus 5 has made some great and even necessary changes to the design of this printer. I'm happy to report that the bed no longer blocks the chamber heater when used at its full height. You also have the ability to more easily add a QIDI box for multicolor printing, and the Plus 5 is now compatible with the polar cooler if that interests you. I haven't been the biggest fan of these accessories in the past. They unfortunately have ended up distracting from what have been largely excellent 3D printers by introducing new problems and headaches. For me, the appeal of QIDI printers has always been that they are built for reliable, practical printing. They offer high-end specs without the high-end price tag, handling engineering-grade filaments exceptionally well. Their focus could be staying as excellent single-color workhorses rather than chasing multicolor features. But I'm getting way ahead of myself. Let's start at the beginning. The first thing is unboxing and setting up the machine, which is pretty straightforward. As with most of these enclosed 3D printers, the majority of your time is going to be spent taking packing material out of the machine as opposed to any assembly. The instruction booklet that comes in the box prompts you to plug in and turn on the printer pretty immediately because the printer will go through and show you all of the necessary unboxing steps. Once you've made your way through all of that, it then starts the typical calibration process. Bed leveling, vibration compensation, all of that kind of stuff. The first print I decided to make was more of a necessity, and that was an extremely exciting waste collection bin. All printers these days like to create small waste poops, and it's best to have some kind of collection system, or else you'll have these coiled bits of plastic all over the place. I quickly designed something that could be magnetized to the back of the printer, and printed it in some high-temperature glass fiber PLA. Now that the necessary boring print is out of the way, we can move on to the fun stuff, starting right away with a full helmet in ABS, because why not? If you've been here for a while, then you're probably well aware by now that my filament of choice is typically ABS. A huge chunk of the projects that I'm printing are helmets, props, droids, and just a lot of things that need a lot of post-processing to then be painted. And ABS is significantly easier to post-process than other types of filament. Its one downside is that it's more difficult to print with. The Plus 5 handled it beautifully though. This is Paz Vizsla's helmet, aka the Heavy Infantry Mandalorian for anyone curious. And for an ABS print, this looks exceptionally good. The overhangs on this helmet were intense to say the least, and they are phenomenally clean. Since the Plus 5 printed the helmet so well, I just started using it for all of the ABS projects that I needed at the time. So next up was Gandalf the Grey's staff. This was an interesting test because the staff has to be printed in quite a lot of pieces. This one build plate has these 8 towers that it's going to have to switch between. When using a high shrinkage filament like ABS, this moving between so many parts can be an issue if the filament has the opportunity to cool down too much. These printed amazingly though, so I'd say the chamber heater is doing a great job of keeping everything cozy. I decided to print the top of the staff separately since it was about a 9-hour print on its own due to all of the necessary supports that blend in very well with the tree branch shapes of the actual piece. I still haven't put this piece together yet, so apologies for the not very exciting looking 3D printed sticks. Even then, you can still see how clean the parts turned out, and the top of the staff is very impressive looking as well, especially with all of the floating areas and overhangs that had to print. I wasn't quite finished with using ABS yet, and some may consider this next print a bit of a trap. But yes, I've been wanting to print this Admiral Akbar mask for so long. It's an absolutely gorgeous print. I had one of his whiskers fail on this build plate, but I honestly wasn't sure if any of them were going to successfully print, so all but one was pretty impressive. The mask is split into multiple pieces for easier printing, since the organic shape does make it a more difficult thing to attempt to 3D print. Right now, all of these parts are being held together by tape and prayers, so don't mind the questionable seams. I also ran out of the one type of gray ABS and had to flip to another, which is clearly not the same color. This is a gorgeous piece just as a raw print, but I can't wait to work on painting it up in the future. Over 100 hours on this printer already, and I somehow hadn't printed with any normal PLA up until this point. I thought it might be the perfect time to check this Lugia model off of my to-print list. It's also a great reminder that even if you're using a single color 3D printer, there are still plenty of multicolor models out there that you can print, either by using slicing tricks or, in Lugia's case, the parts being separated by color. After I had all of the plates printed, I assembled everything together with some super glue, and this was the result. It's a very impressive looking print, and Lugia is my favorite Pokemon, so I'm super happy to now have this as a display piece. All of the parts fit together pretty perfectly. There are a couple of rough overhangs on the back of the legs and feet, but nothing that I wouldn't have expected given the size of the overhang, and it most likely could still be improved with some setting tweaks. The overwhelming majority of all of these different pieces ended up looking great. Next, I came across this model inspired by the infamous IMAX camera popcorn bucket, and it was going to have to be a necessary print for me. This is another model that is separated by colored parts. I used some PETG for the white pieces, mainly because I wanted to try out another type of filament on this printer, but the black and blue pieces were just PLA. Once again, I glued everything together with some super glue, and this was the result. I'm probably going to use this to store some smaller bits of camera gear that like to overtake my workshop, and it's going to be one fantastic looking organizer. I wanted to go back to using a more challenging material on the Plus 5, so I decided to try out some of this ASACF for a couple of small tripods. As with any photography equipment, you kind of want it to be as indestructible as possible since it's under constant use. I also think I'm going to be using this tripod outside on a trail cam, so it needs to be weather and heat resistant. This ASA printed beautifully. The texture is a bit different to other carbon fiber filaments I've used in the past. On the spool, it has this outer core that keeps it very smooth and shiny, but when printed, it becomes more matte and a little textured again. I also had some of this TPU GF that I really wanted to try because this too was a very different texture compared to other TPU filaments I'd used. The glass fibers make it more rigid than rubbery like TPU tends to be. Because of that, I still fed it through the PTFE tube from the side spool holder rather than more directly into the extruder, and that worked out fine for printing. This tripod file also had these pad pieces. I wasn't sure if this particular TPU would be the best fit for these, but it didn't use too much material and it gave me the opportunity to at least try the filament to see what the texture was like when printed. The best way I can describe this texture is that they're kind of like plastic swords that action figures have. It's still pretty rigid, not squishy at all, but it can be bent and flexed without breaking. Because it seems so durable, I went ahead and tried printing more of the tripod legs out of it to see what they would be like. They definitely have some flex to them, so it might not be the most ideal application for this material, depending on how heavy the thing you want to use the tripod for is, but I don't think I'd ever be worried about these legs breaking, which is ideal. These were kind of crazy filaments, but the Plus 5 handled both of them beautifully. These parts looked like factory made, and this mini tripod is already coming in handy. And all of that brings us to now. Other than a couple of small misprints, the QIDI Plus 5 did an excellent job producing beautiful prints in a variety of different materials. But as with every 3D printer, it has its pros and cons. The biggest thing that I noticed when using this machine is that the PTFE tube really likes to scrape against the top glass. This is something that could possibly be fixed or at least improved by the user. I don't like making too many modifications when I'm testing out new printers so that I can see see what happens with the stock machine. So that's why I haven't done anything about this yet. But you do have to be careful that you don't accidentally create too much of a bend in the PTFE tube so that the filament can still feed into the extruder properly. I'll probably try a combination of adding an extra clip or two to the cable chain to keep the tube sitting lower in the machine. So is this the biggest issue ever? No. But it is a little annoying that this is a continuous problem with the QIDI printers, and there doesn't seem to be any consideration of possibly fixing or changing the design of something so that this doesn't happen so much. Whether that be changing how tall the hot end is so that the PTFE tube doesn't sit so close to the top, or just designing the enclosure to have a bit more space allowance. Speaking of the enclosure or size of the printer, I do wish that the Plus 5 either had a true cube build volume or be taller on the Z-axis. I really appreciate the extra space on the build plate, but if you're someone who's planning on printing a lot of helmets or projects of that nature, if something isn't going to fit on this printer, it's probably going to be because it's too tall. 3D printers always used to have a larger Z build volume. Now it's more commonly equal to the X and Y axis dimensions. So this printer being shorter is more on the unusual side in terms of machine designs. 300 millimeters is still a good amount of print height though. Something like Mandalorian helmets have no issue printing in a single piece, and realistically, slicing a part that's too tall down to fit on your printer is a lot easier than trying to slice something that won't fit within the build plate size. A new feature to the Plus 5 is the bed status light bar. Now, I don't hate this feature, but I also don't really care about it. If you told me you were going to be putting 2 LED lights, no matter what, into the chamber of this printer, I would much rather both of them be used to more evenly light the enclosure. It's not terribly dark by any means. Some dark filaments are harder to see when viewing from the webcam or during time lapses, but I just would have preferred an improvement in the chamber lighting or even a webcam upgrade over a lighting effect that I really couldn't care less about. Maybe that's a bit harsh. I guess let me know in the comments what your strong opinions are on status bar lights. The camera has the ability to use an AI print failure detection, so the chamber lighting being adequate is equally for function as it is aesthetics and user experience. You know, if it's too dark or harder to see darker filaments, then that software won't be able to pick up on those print defects and work properly. Now, the good news is, in terms of a list of possible negative points towards the machine, those were pretty minimal non-issues. None of them are extremely affecting how the printer works, and it works extremely well. You've seen throughout this video the quality of prints that I've been getting off of this machine. I'm sure I can let the footage of them speak for themselves. I tried to use a wide range of different filament types because while I may be an ABS fanatic, I know everyone has their own preferred filaments and use cases for their 3D printers. Speaking of print quality, the Plus 5 also uses the 1.5 GT belts, which helps with reducing possible VFAs, and I would say given these prints, that seems to be working very well. It also has 32 gigabytes of built-in memory and the ability to add or use a USB stick for more storage or file transfer. I ended up remotely sending all of my prints to the machine via Wi-Fi, but that's just my personal preference. Half of the time I'm working somewhere else on my laptop, so the only way anything is going to be getting printed is if I can remotely send and start the prints, but you never have to connect the printer to Wi-Fi if you don't want to. The Plus 5 still has an Ethernet port, or you can use a USB stick for all of your files. It's also open source, which I know is of huge importance for some people. It's Clipper based, which also means there's a fluid interface that you can access remotely to control or monitor your printer. There is a QIDI app that you can use, but I always just used Fluid on the internet browser on my phone to check in on the printer. Now, does this printer have the newest, craziest innovation in multicolor printing that prints in 75 colors and can make you a coffee? No. But that doesn't make the things that this machine is incredible at any less impressive or useful. Sometimes being great at the fundamentals is far more valuable than chasing every flashy new feature. The majority of things that I 3D print are large-scale single-color ABS pieces for droids and other prop projects. The most useful 3D printer for me is the one that can produce those pieces reliably, and the QIDI Plus 5 did exactly that. If you're also someone who's looking for a consistent, reliable printer that can create great-looking prints in a variety of filaments, but especially those harder to print engineering materials, then I definitely think the Plus 5 is worth looking into. It's already helped me create some fantastic looking pieces, and I can't wait to continue using it for my work. If you'd like to find out even more information about the QIDI Plus 5, there will be links in the description box as well as has links to all of the models I printed throughout this video. But that is everything. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.